Hey y'all, so in this video we're going to construct just a basic 8-fold star rosette, which can then be reflected to make a bigger pattern. So I'm at geogebra.org/classic and I'm going new, and I don't care about saving my work because I'm constructing it again. So I'm going to hide my axes, I'm going to hide my grid, I'm going to go into my settings, and if this didn't show up, remember you click this button and then the gear. And in my basic settings, I'm going to show my labeling to be new points only. In my graphics view, I'm on all those things, algebra. I want to sort by object type, and I just want to show the definition, and I want auxiliary objects selected. So there's all my properties. So we're going to start by typing A equals 0, 0, and B equals 1, 0. And I want to make sure these 2 points don't get moved. So I'm going to click Fix Object. So this is under the object settings. So when you have an object selected and you go into your settings, this icon shows up, and there's just a few options there where you can change the color and the style and all kinds of stuff. All right, so I've got these 2 points, and I want to build a regular 8-sided polygon. So I click on A, then B with my regular polygon tool. And I'm going to make the opacity of this 0. So those quick tools at the top are kind of nice at geogebra.org/classic. And then I'm going to put in a few lines that are going to be the boundaries of my square tile. Then I'm going to grab my perpendicular bisector tool underneath the perpendicular line tool, perpendicular bisector, and I'm going to put in a perpendicular bisector between A and B, between A and C. I might need one between B and C, but I'm not going to put it in there just yet because I don't remember if I need it or not. Then I'm going to grab my intersect tool, and I'm going to put in my center point I. I don't really like that name, so I think I'm going to rename it to O. So I like capital O for origin for the center point. And then intersect tool again, I want this point. And I'm also going to want this point over here, so maybe let's go ahead and, no, I'm just going to leave it for now. All right, so then let's grab our circle with center through point tool. Now I can grab that point. So again, just make sure you select just that point, not the circle and then the line segment, because then you'll get an extra point over here on top of I as well. All right, we're doing great. I need one more point with my intersect tool, and that's this point here where that circle intersects that diagonal radial line OB. Then I'm going to grab my parallel line tool, and I'm going to click on either this point first and then this vertical line, or this vertical line first and then this point. It's kind of nice when you click on the line first because you can kind of really get a sense that you're creating a parallel line somewhere. And then I click on the point where I want it to be. And this is a pattern line, so I'm going to make it a different color. So I'm going to make it blue. I don't know if that shows up really well. Maybe we'll make it orange. All right. Then we want to put in an angle bisector. This is what's going to allow those outer 4 edges of our petal to be the same length. So angle bisector, remember you want to select a point and then a point and then a point. So 3 points with the vertex of the angle you're trying to bisect in the middle. And I like to make my angle bisectors a different style. And then we want our intersect tool. And I want this point right here. That's the shoulder of my petal. Then I'm going to grab this reflect about line tool and I'm going to reflect that vertical orange line over that diagonal radial line OB. I'm going to grab my intersect tool and then reflect about line tool. I want to reflect L over that central vertical and K over that central vertical. And then I'm going to grab my polygon tool and I'm going to put in that petal. So that was pretty quick and easy just to get that first petal. So we need a kite right here. We need a half star here and a quarter octagon in the corner. So we just have a little bit more work to do. So let's go ahead and put in that kite. So I need my reflect about line tool and I'm going to take this line and reflect it over that central vertical. And I want where that newly reflected line intersects that diagonal radial line OB. And then I'm going to take my reflect about line tool and I'm going to reflect point M over that radial OB. And there's my kite. So I'm going to grab my polygon tool and put that in. If you have trouble clicking on those dots, you can always zoom way in so that they're a little bit clearer. So then I'm going to put in this line. So I could have put in IL or I could put in IJ. Either way is fine. That's a pattern line, so I'm going to make it orange. And I want where these two pattern lines intersect, point P. And then I'm going to take this line and reflect it over this side of the octagon, like so. And then with my intersect tool, I want to find where that intersects the bottom edge of the square. So now that gives me my half star, so I can put that polygon in. And now all I'm missing is this quarter octagon in the corner. So I'm going to grab my intersect tool, put in the corner and this point, and with our polygon tool, put in that quarter octagon. So that's the minimum information we need in order to construct the rest of this pattern. I could go in and manually do all this 4 times for the stars and the octagon and 8 times for the petal and the kite. But the great thing about GeoGebra is that you don't have to. You can auto-generate the rest of the pattern based on the minimal information. So before we do that, I'm just going to clean up a little bit. And I'm going to hide all of those orange pattern lines. I'm going to hide my angle bisector. I'm going to hide this diagonal. I want to keep that central vertical and the 4 bounding lines. I'm going to go ahead and hide all my points except for, oh, maybe I'll just hide the labels and then keep the label for O. That's fine. I don't have too many points that they're overwhelming. And I'm going to go ahead and hide that original polygon because I don't need that. And I'm going to hide my circle. So all I have are my bounding lines, my central line, my points, and these 4 polygons. Let's show the labels for these polygons. So we know what, oops, didn't mean to show your label. There we go, have the polygon selected. So I'm just right-clicking and selecting show label. So now I know what to call them when I write my code. So I'm gonna just open this up a little bit more so we can see it. And I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom to that input bar. And first I'm going to generate a sequence of rotations of my kite and my petal, since I need 8 of those each all the way around point O. But I don't need 8 of the half star or the quarter octagon. I only need 8 of those. So that's going to be a separate sequence. So I'm going to type sequence, rotate, open curly brackets, and then I list the things I want to rotate. So Q1, comma, poly 2, and close my curly brackets. Then I tell it how much I want to rotate by, and we want to rotate by 360 degrees. So Alt O for the degree symbol, or you can use the keyboard. So 360 degrees over 8. So 8 divisions of the circle times I. So I'm just using Shift 8. So the little asterisk shows up as a dot in GeoGebra. So 360 over 8 times I. And then a comma. And what I want to rotate about, which is capital O. Then I close my parentheses, put a comma, tell it my index variable is I, and I is going to vary from 0 to 7. So that's what that sequence looks like. I'll leave that up for just a minute before I hit enter so that you can see how I typed it. It shows up a little bit differently once I hit enter. So you can see it's all on one line rather than having the vertical fraction. So that space between the 8 and the I is important if you're typing it like that. All right, so now we need a sequence for poly 3 and Q2. So I do need 8 of these half stars all the way around, but half of them are the opposite orientation. So what we're actually going to do is only rotate this guy 4 times, and then we're going to reflect over that center line. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to type sequence, rotate, and open curly brackets, poly 3, close curly brackets. And I could just type 90 degrees times I, but I really like to think about 360 degrees over the number of rotations. So 360 over 4 times I, close parentheses, I goes from 0 to 3. Oh, what did I do? Oh, I forgot to tell it what to rotate about. That's important. So comma O. Always important to tell it what you want to rotate about. Otherwise, it's just going to make something up. So sequence rotate poly 3 by 360 degrees over 4, or 90 degrees times I, about point O, where our index variable I varies from 0 to 3. Then we can hit enter. So you can see that list. Then what I want to do is I'm going to take my reflect about line tool, and I want to select that list. So it's easier to select one of the rotated ones rather than the original one, because it's going to want to default to selecting the polygon rather than the list. So I want to select that list, and I want to reflect over that central vertical. And so now I have the left-handed one and the right-handed one. Cool. So then we're just going to do the same thing for Q2. Sequence, rotate, open curly brackets, Q2 by 360 degrees over 4 times I. This time, remember to tell it that we want to rotate about point O, close parentheses, where I varies from 0 to 3. And we've got our whole pattern. So all we have to do is hide Q1, Q2, poly 2, poly 3. We can hide our lines. I'm just going to hide them individually. But I am going to hide all my points all at once. So I'm going to select them by clicking on point. Remember, as long as you're sorting by object type, you can do that. And then I'm going to right click on a point and select show object. And then if I right click and drag over the whole thing, it selects everything. I can change my color, opacity, and line thickness. And we've got our 8-fold star rosette. If you want to start reflecting this thing, you can leave those bounding lines, and you can, so this is more of an advanced thing. Let me show the names of these lists. So I've got M1, M2, M3, and M2 prime. So what I can do is I could select everything and then reflect over a line, or this is line R. I can type reflect, open parentheses, and then type my list of lists. And then tell it what I want to reflect about. And then I have just a single object that's reflected over. Now, the way I have this set up, you are going to have a line in the middle of your star and in the middle of, and in the middle of your octagon, and we'll go over later how to clean that up before you start making your lists. But this will just kind of give you an idea of what's possible. So all I did was reflect that reflected object over those lines. And I could have made a sequence of rotations of that thing about that corner point as well. So a lot of different ways you can start expanding your pattern once you have your base tile. All right, that's all for now. See you next time.